The Miami Hurricanes and the Texas A&M Aggies both making their college football playoff debut as it'll be hosted in Kyle Field tomorrow at noon. Let's talk about it. So the Aggies come into this one 11-1, Miami 10-2. A&M coming off of the recent loss to Texas about a couple weeks ago. They have missed out on the SEC championship. So coming off of a loss, they've had a couple weeks to prepare, just like Ohio State last year, losing to their rival on the road. They're favored by 3.5 here. It's at home. Kyle Field is a hard place to play, but also A&M has not had the best record at home. They've been the second, third place tier in the SEC for a while. And now with Texas joining, now they're kind of little bro back in their own conference. With Miami, they have not been back since 2002, and we'll talk about that at the end. And really with Miami, kind of an up and down season. You start off really good with wins over Notre Dame. You're number 2 in the country, and then not back to back, but within a month you lose to Miami or Louisville and SMU. You're back to out of the playoff, and you win out, and then you get the head-to-head one-spot switch between you and Notre Dame. You're in, Notre Dame is out. Pack home for the rest of the season for the Irish, and now you got to go on the road to Kyle Field to face the Texas A&M Aggies for the right to play the Ohio State Buckeyes. So let's talk about this game. So I want to start off with Miami. So Carson Beck, 25 touchdowns to 10 interceptions for the year. He is a 3,000-yard passer. He is better than what he was last year, but not as good as he was 2 years ago. When that first year he was starting at Georgia, but much improved from last year at Georgia. And it really looked like he was going to go prime Carson Beck at the beginning of the season, and then kind of fell off a little bit. Had, I think, 4 interceptions against Louisville. That's kind of what led them to lose that game. But they have won 4 straight. They have big wins over Syracuse, NC State, who's currently beating up on Memphis 31-7. 34-17 over Virginia Tech, and then an absolute dominating win, 38-7 over Pitt. Now with A&M, they are coming off of their loss to Texas. Somehow they won against South Carolina, and if you see my reaction to that, I was very upset because I wanted A&M to lose. But very dominant wins over LSU, even though it was a little bit clunky, and Missouri. So, talking back to Miami, Miami's run game has been one of the staples early on this season. It was the thing that defined them as this is a physical team. You have a very good offensive line, and it led them to be one of the most balanced teams in the entire country. It seems like that has kind of gotten a little bit away from them. If you look at the last game they played against Pitt, Pringle, I guess there's backup Brendan Pringle, 10 carries, 82 yards. I'm guessing Fletcher was hurt that game. So let me go back a couple games. When was the last time he played? Because he might have been out for a while. Yeah, so Fletcher, I don't even think he's going to be playing. Going to play against A&M. I thought he was going to. He is going to play. So they were saving him for the playoff. So maybe that run game can come back a little bit for Miami. And then obviously the 2 monsters at receiver for Miami. You have freshman, let me just get this straight. Freshman Malachi Tomey, yes. He's only 5'11". That's kind of more than I thought. And then CJ Daniels and Keelan Marion have been very consistent, especially CJ Daniels with 7 touchdowns on the year. Only 400 yards receiving on 35 receptions. So maybe a little bit of a question there. And then this defense for Miami. Yes, it has not been incredible recently. They haven't allowed more than 20 in their past 5 games. Yes, SMU scored 26, but it took overtime. So within 4 quarters, no one's ever scored over 20. So their defense has been good. Ruben Bain, I don't know where he's been. We're talking on the Heisman caliber, number 1 overall pick in the draft at the beginning of the year. And then recently, we're talking about he's not even getting that many snaps. So that'll be a really big key to see if Ruben Bain can step up. Now with A&M, Marcel Reed, pretty much same stats, around 3,000 yards passing, 25 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, or 10 interceptions. The only difference is A&M's got a running game. Ruben Owens, 112 carries, 600 yards. It's like around 6 yards per carry and 5 touchdowns. And then these receivers. We talk about a three-headed monster. We said something about Miami. This is your three-headed monster. This is on caliber with like Ohio State and Indiana with your three-headed monsters. We're talking about Marcel Reed, Concepcion, and Mario Craver. Concepcion, 57 receptions, 886 yards, and 9 touchdowns. Compared to Craver, 52 receptions, 825 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Also, Bethel Roman has been very productive for the Aggies as that third guy kind of in the slot. But let's talk about some of the prediction for this game. What does Miami need to do to win this game? So, Miami, on defense, you need to cage Marcel Reed. You can't have Marcel Reed constantly running around, constantly scrambling, picking up first downs. That will plague your defense, and it'll force you to play deep zone coverage, which doesn't allow your defensive line to eat if you're only going to rush 4. You need to rush more. This offensive line is pretty good for A&M, so you're going to need to find a way to either spy him, QB contain him, or cage him, as you would say, and just not allow him to be a factor on the ground. Because if you have to worry about Concepcion, Craver, Bethel Roman, Ruben Owens, and Marcel Reed, it's too much. It's too much. And Ruben Bain is not like an Arvell Reese where he can play linebacker and edge rusher. He is an edge rusher. And he's a big edge rusher. So you can say he's all like a blend between a defensive tackle and an edge rusher. He's a big dude. He's not going to be able to draw back in coverage. So when he's up front of the line of scrimmage, no one's confused about if he's dropping back or not. He is rushing the quarterback. So you can't. There's too many key pieces for you to do on defense. You have to force them to do 2 to 3 things and stick to that. You can't allow them to have 5 options. It's not even talking about their tight ends too. So now on offense for Miami, Carson Beck, you need to play clean. We need Notre Dame Carson Beck. We can't have Ole Miss Carson Beck from last year. We can't have Louisville Carson Beck from this year where we're throwing 3 to 4 interceptions, because Carson Beck will do that to you. He will throw multiple on. We're talking to like 4 interceptions. And this defense for Jay Bateman for A&M, I know he's leaving, but that's still his defense. I mean, it's maybe not the most talented defense. They can disguise. They're a good defense. They will pounce on you. No, A&M hasn't had the absolute best defense. If you look at their schedule all year, I mean, teams have been able to put points on them. Notre Dame put up 40. Their UTS and Utah State both over 20. Florida put up 7. I mean, Arkansas put up 42. LSU 25. South Carolina 30. Texas 27. So, like, they allow points. They do. A&M allows points, but maybe they're not as good in the secondary. Up front, they're very good. Very, very good. They have struggled with big plays, but they can tighten up in the red zone. So, and with Miami, they're so balanced where they're not as explosive, where I worry if I'm Miami, if we're getting in the red zone, that's when this Jay Bateman, it's Jay Bateman, right? I want to make sure I'm getting his name right. Yes, Jay Bateman. So, I worry if I'm Miami is if we get all the way marching down the field and then we get in the red zone especially with that crowd, Kyle Field, which is top 3 stadiums in the country. I love Kyle Field. Its design is beautiful. It's a big stadium. It holds over 100,000 people. And I get it's a noon game. That place is loud. So I wonder if they're going to be able to capitalize on offense in the red zone for Miami. So talking about A&M's defense, Jay Bateman, the defensive coordinator, he's staying with the team, but kind of like what Brian Hartline is doing, he's gone, but he's just staying with the team. I wonder, especially with the time off, sometimes losses, the frustration can bring out the best, sometimes it can bring out the worst. So I wonder if A&M's defense might get too distracted and not play as well, especially with all the time off that they've had. Miami's also had time off, but I wonder if that could be a factor for A&M, especially with Malachi Toney, who's a speed demon. Like, he can get behind safeties. So, especially with the secondary being what it is for A&M, like, Miami's balance. If you take away deep, you will force them to go underneath, and they will march down the field on you, but you can tighten up in the red zone, which is where you've been good all year. So, that's what I think for the defensive coordinator side. Talking about the X and O's now, or the Jimmy and Joes or whatever, Ruben Bain, like I said this earlier, you got to have an impact. I mean, we're talking about, he hasn't done much this past month. If I look at the year, he's not leading in tackles or sacks or really anything. 19 solo tackles, 18 assists, 37 total, 4.5 sacks. Akeem Mesidor has almost double the amount of sacks that he does. And Ahad Moten, the defensive lineman, also has 4.5. So Ruben Bain has not been the star for this team. Maybe that's injury. Say what you want it to be. But you really need him to make an impact. The last thing I will get to Miami before we get to talk about A&M. You need to silence the crowd. Miami has played at A&M before. They ended up losing that game 17-9. That was when Tyler Van Dyke, who I think went to Wisconsin or NC State, he transferred somewhere, some like red team that wasn't very good. But that was when Tyler Van Dyke was the quarterback for Miami back in 22. You need to silence the crowd, because if this is a one-possession game in the fourth and it's kind of getting a little bit pointsy for Miami, an area that maybe they're not super used to being at, and it's not a defensive slug out, which is what Miami wants. This game is like 35-28 and you have the ball at the 10-yard line and there's 5 minutes left. I don't know. Because even though the secondary is what it is, you can drop back and let them guys eat. Because it's an obvious pass situation. And what does Carson Beck do best in obvious pass situations? Throws interceptions. So, now I want to talk a little about A&M. I've been talking a lot about Miami. So, Marcel Reed. He's your guy. He's your superstar. He was a Heisman finalist or contender about midway through the season. It kind of fell off, especially after that Texas game. I think if he would have won that game, I think he probably would have been in New York, probably over Jeremiah Love, maybe over Diego Pavia. But we need Notre Dame Marcel Reed. We need Marcel Reed when he was playing Missouri. We do not need South Carolina first half Marcel Reed. Texas Marcel Reed. Even LSU Marcel Reed. And they ended up winning in a blowout. But if you remember the first half, they were losing because of the multiple interceptions. Against Auburn, Marcel Reed has really struggled against better defenses, especially in the SEC this year. Even against games, blowout wins. Notre Dame, he had a pick. Auburn had a pick. LSU, and their defense is talented. It wasn't very good. I forget their defense. Was it Blake Baker was the defensive coordinator? Maybe that's Clemson's. I don't remember. But LSU had 2 interceptions, and then Texas had 2 interceptions. And that Texas one, they really dominated A&M in the second half. And this will be a second half game. Aside from the 2 group of 5 games, these first 2 first games, I don't think they're going to be a blowout at all. I will say, I think it's going to be a very interesting battle between the tackles and edge rushers. Guys like A&M, Cassius Howell versus Francis Malgoa, the tackle for Miami, who is a first-round projected pick. I think probably the second tackle behind the guy from Utah, Spencer Fano. And then for the flip-flop for Miami on defense, Ruben Bain versus Trizoon. I would say one of the better players on this A&M team is the left tackle, Trizoon. So yeah, we already talked about. I'm just going 3 minutes. We already talked about Marcel Reed, Concepcion, and Craver. I think those guys are electric. You need them to show up. Against South Carolina, too many drops, and that was at home at noon, or maybe it was 3. I think it was at noon. Can't have that. You can't have that. The drops were unbelievable for them. Can A&M use the Texas loss as fuel? Because, to be honest, they've never been here before. It's not even like they were here in the BCS. I mean, maybe they were once, but like they haven't been. Miami hasn't been here, but at least they've been here before. They've been to BCS. They've had dynasties before. A&M really hasn't had a dynasty, so I think they'll be ready. I think both teams will be ready. Miami, won 4 games in a row, but Miami has not been here either since 2002, where one thing if they win, they get to play Ohio State, which is awesome. I think maybe Miami's a better matchup for Ohio State, and A&M would be worse if it's in Dallas. But I kind of want to play Miami. But Miami's not been here since 2002, where the Ohio State Buckeyes banished them to the Shadow Realm. I don't know what it is, but whenever we beat you, like, it's dynasty over. It's over. Talk about Miami, over. We beat Clemson, over. They're destroyed. Absolutely obliterated, never to be seen ever again. We beat Texas, obliterated. They're over. I mean, they just kick. They're Sark's deflecting the blame on the defensive coordinator, bringing back Muschamp. No. What other dynasties have we ruined? I mean, Notre Dame's never been great. Oregon, Oregon's fine. Maybe that's all for right now. Penn State too, but we always beat them. But the winner of this game will play Ohio State, and I want Miami to banish them. So, now to get to my prediction. If you watched my bracket video and even my shorts prediction video, I picked Miami over A&M, and I picked Oklahoma over Alabama. If you've actually watched my Bama-Oklahoma prediction, which I'm going to pin right here, go watch it. It came out yesterday. I picked Alabama. And I'm going to flip the same here. I'm going to go with A&M. I think A&M wins. I think A&M wins something like 27-20. I think it's not in the range that maybe Miami wants, where it's super defensive, where it's under 24, but not in the 30s where A&M wants. I think it's somewhere in the middle. I think it's a close game at halftime. Maybe 17-17. And I think Miami just kind of shuts down the second half. I think A&M wins 27-20. I could also maybe see this game going to overtime, which would be, amazing. The first round games all last year were terrible. But that is all I have for you guys tonight. I didn't make a video talking about the Oregon James Madison game and Ole Miss Tulane game, because I can just tell you now, Oregon's going to murder James Madison, and Ole Miss is going to probably beat the crap out of Tulane like they did in September. But again, hit the subscribe button. I made a video last night talking about my 60 subscribe threshold. We're already at 66. I got 3 subscribers from that one video. This is awesome. This is super cool, and I would always hope to eventually get this channel to the size where I could collab with other small creators, and then other medium creators, and obviously all the other big creators. But again, so thankful for what this channel has been. It's been a lot of fun. I've really got to improve on a lot of skills, and it has just really been an absolute blast. So I will see you guys all tomorrow. I'll probably make a short tonight after the Bama-Oklahoma game for my reaction, but on Sunday I'll obviously have my full reaction video for all the games, and I'll do individual ones, and I'll do a big matchup one. But yeah, I will see you guys all then, and as always, of course, thank you.